Welcome to the MCNet Christian Leadership Institute, a unique approach to equipping the next generation of Christian leaders. CLI is an initiative of the International Ministry Coaching Network and implements a competency-based mentorship for ministerial training. It provides a program for pastors and church leaders to train their leadership teams. This podcast series is designed to equip you in how to use the materials and implement this training within your church or organization.
Well, I got to know about you, but I'm looking forward to the next session here as we start looking overview of the CLI, which is our Christian Leadership Institute, competency-based mentorship.
Yeah.
And so, we've collaborated on a few projects over the years.
We have.
And this is kind of a major one for us. And it's 40 different competencies. And, and it's taken a few years for us to put this together, but really it's actually a few decades of our lives, right? And of training and
the culmination of quite a few things.
Exactly. Kind of as we would want to do training as we've looked at the various type of trainings we've done over the years. And I don't know how it happened, but between it's been a few decades of training leaders ourselves.
Yeah.
But my roots really began, looking back to the discipleship movement of the late 70s and the 80s. And, and then a few years later, Nancy and I went to Africa, and we were involved in leadership training there with pastors, but it was kind of an in-service training, which was pretty cutting edge at the time.
Yeah.
People would come just for a month at a time and then go back into their, we used to say we're training people, for ministry. So I worked with a few other guys and collaborated with them out of the U.S. And that was a really great time. But then 10 years later, we developed the mentoring through intentional relationships model, which was really kind of another step of doing a one-on-one mentoring with leaders. And that was when we were living in Berlin in early 2000s. And so my roots really are this mentoring DNA.
Right.
That's really why I've been involved. And that was really your heart too. And how that interrelates with ministerial training. And so we try to put that together, and we're going to explain that in this episode, in this orientation episode of how we've kind of put all those components together. A few years ago, we were sharing with our international team. We were in Wittenberg at the time, in Germany, and really sharing the vision of combining this mentoring relational model together with the competency, which was kind of your heart, and what that all meant and how we can put these two together. And as I say, I guess the rest is history. But we believe this is really the future of theological ministerial training. But that's kind of my real nutshell, how I got to where I got. How did you kind of come around to, at this stage of our life, to be thinking about putting something together that's a competency-based training?
Well, my experience in ministry has been in the Bible college world for pretty much 20 years. I served as an academic dean of a Bible school here in Canada. I've also worked as a church planter.
Oh, cool.
And then subsequent to that, a pastor, obviously. As well as working with other church leaders and pastors, doing some transitional work, helping people solve crises in churches, that kind of a thing. And then also with your ministry, in our collaboration, is traveling around different places and teaching leaders.
A lot of different places from Russia and Latin America, Cuba.
We've been around.
Yeah.
And
did you come to China with me too one time?
Yeah, we did. We did one trip to China. And so that's been my background. And one of the things that I thought of starting way back in 2006 was what are other models of training?
Well, that's when we were doing the Church Planters Academy.
We had training
Berlin,
church planters, and and this is kind of connected to that. We don't have to go into that long story. That's probably maybe fun for us, but for nobody else. But for a long time, I've been thinking about this concept of competency-based leadership training for Christian leaders, and what is different about it. Well, competency-based learning is used in other disciplines. It's used in like medical training, computer training, engineering, etc. Is there a way to do it for Christian ministers? So what is it? Well, competency-based training or learning is a model that focuses on outcomes that translate into effectiveness in professional disciplines. So what I did to help myself understand it is contrast it with the typical academic model that's used for training pastors. So most academic models stress measuring learning using categories of how much time did you spend doing it, how many credits did you earn, how did you do on the test and the recall of knowledge, and usually how many pages did you read and how many pages did you write, which are all useful things, but are they the best thing to actually train a person for real-time ministry? So competency-based learning is a system that has a predetermined set of competencies, which we've highlighted 40 of those. And then we start off with an assessment of the learner based on those competencies. And then we develop a learning track that's unique to each learner, depending on how much experience and skill that they have in the various competencies. And then we track the progress of the learner, and they're tested in an actual working context. The best way to do competency-based training is in a practical environment where you're putting your skills into place.
So it's more like an apprenticeship rather than like learning a trade rather than just a profession, getting a general arts degree or something.
Yeah, very much so. So what are the 4 things about competency-based? So we'll just list 4 real quick because that makes it easy, right? Anyway, competency-based learning recognizes the leader's skills and experiences, what they already have. Competency-based learning is focused on what the leader needs.
So I think that's important, because then when the person comes to to this program, we take into consideration what they've already done in their life.
That's right.
And that's important. So because it's very demotivating to learn something, having learned stuff, we've all done that, where you take the same course 4 different times in 4 different programs. I mean, that's pretty demotivating.
Yeah, the competency-based learning is focused on learning while doing. So rather than just being in the books, you're being active. And then what it does is it aligns, competency-based learning aligns preparation with experience and proficiency. So what that means is, so someone has a calling of God on their life. Maybe it's a young person or whatever, that maybe God calls them to do missions in such and such a place in the world. Well, that's great. But if you go from the night you were called at the meeting you were at when God spoke to you to the next day getting on an airplane, you're probably going to fail. So there's some preparation that needs to be done in order to fulfill the direction that God is sending you in terms of your ministry. And so this is a great way to do that.
It might be good for me to just mention a few things about mentoring, since this is really such a key part of this of this program. And we have links, I said, on the website if you want to have a kind of take a deeper dive into the topic. But a few things about mentoring that I think we probably know intuitively, maybe, and nobody. I mean, none of us are experts on this. We're experientially involved in mentoring. We've had upward mentors, downward mentors, peer mentors, but it's not a new concept. It's been around for thousands of years. Jesus trained his early disciples in this way, and in a sense, it's just coming alongside of someone and providing guidance on their journey. And if upward mentors aren't available, like I said, peer mentors are also, a cohort is also a possibility. But the real focus is life transformation, as you were mentioning with that. It's not just about passing on information. And we want to incorporate that into this type of learning, this type of program. And so the mentoring process naturally is based on a servant leadership process, where I'm not the boss, I'm not the guru, I'm not the expert, but I'm walking alongside of someone, actually with the goal of releasing them.
That's right.
Not of controlling them. And I think that's why we talk in other places about, that's the fallacy of this whole spiritual fathering approach, where I am your one person, the kind of the Holy Spirit in your life.
Oops.
And also we should mention, we're not really talking about spiritual discipleship. We do have another collaboration that we worked on, was discipling through intentional relationships. And in that whole program, which is again could be a multi-year sort of approach, is 12 key chapters of helping someone grow in the faith.
That's right.
And so this is, we're assuming that when it comes to the mentoring we're talking about, that you're growing in the faith, and now we want to help you grow in your leadership
That's right.
capacity.
Yeah.
And so, like you said, it's walking alongside of them, guiding them in their own personal calling and their leadership development. And hopefully you can find someone through this program. And one of the goals we have is for mentors to take this program, and we provide it for you so that you can go mentor and lead your teams and help equip your various teams. And of course, if you would like to just get, there, like you said, there's, we're going to explain the program. There's 8 modules. There's 40 competencies. But if you like to a la carte, look at different topics, and you like to get them, you can go to our website, and it includes the syllabus, the assessments, and all the reading material. And you can go to our ICM Canada website if you'd like to get that. But anyways, on the other side of the break, we're going to continue sharing a little bit more about the program and some of the details, and so I hope you continue and join us then.
If you are interested in using this training program to develop leaders within your church or organization, click on the link in the description or go to our website mcnetcli.org/contact. This competency mentorship is being used by both young as well as seasoned leaders. The program is currently available in English, Spanish, and Russian. By registering, you will have access to all our materials through the CLI online platform, providing you all the materials necessary to equip your leaders. Upon completion of the program, each candidate will earn an International MCNet Leadership Certificate. If you would prefer to download the materials of individual competencies, go to icmcanada.org/MCNetCLI.
Well, the Christian Leadership Institute, or CLI, is the ministerial training program of our MCNet, or Ministry Coaching Network. And these are leaders around the world that share the same values that we have of team approach, of servant leadership, of mentoring. And they're implementing training and equipping the next generation of Christian leaders. And we're pretty excited about that. It's been going on for a couple decades now at least. And so we have a network in various parts of the world. But the program itself that we're talking about here in this orientation episode is basically 2 tracks. There's a certificate in Christian leadership and an advanced certificate in Christian ministry. Okay, the titles might not be the most creative in the world, but we gave it our best shot. Each certificate then has 4 modules, and they cover personal attributes to ministerial and organizational skills. It's quite a wide gamut of what we provide here. And then, like you said, as we said before the break, there's 40 competencies in all. But maybe, Doug, you can explain a little bit about the process within what happens within each competency.
Sure. So basically, each competency begins with an assessment, and we've developed an assessment for each of the areas of competency we cover. And then the candidate, as we call them, and their mentor will have access to materials that we've made available. And they can either do it for credit or they can do it for audit. So it begins with an assessment. And then once the candidate goes through the assessment, which could be just a self-assessment, or sometimes it's in different stages. So there'd be an assessment and then a third-party assessment that they can do comparative
Sometimes
analysis.
it's objective, we have like questions, and other times it's more subjective with questions, and so it varies depending on the competency.
Depending on the competency, And then, so out of that assessment, the mentor, or there's an evaluation that goes with it, and they'll determine whether they are kind of at what level they assess at.
Undeveloped, developed,
or proficient. And with that, there are learning activities that are connected to that. And so we have comprehensive activities, assignments, and then practicums. And they're all laid out in the material.
And how many of those you do and what depth you have to go to depends on how you were assessed initially.
Exactly. So not everybody will do the same thing. So our goal is to provide materials so that you can train others, or you can train your team if that's what your interest in this is about. And then we provide material and the guidance through the material, or you can provide things that like we have stuff, but you may have material that's pertinent to
well,
the
we've created the
subject.
outline.
Yeah.
And really for you to take it and to use it to help you equip your team. And that's really our goal here.
Yeah. So we've also developed some guidelines for mentors and to guide them through the process.
Right.
And so there's kind of a schedule you go through, and you tick it off as you go. And so this is all used to help somebody to evaluate and then to develop into that area. And we don't, one of the things what we talk about is being proficient. That's our goal, is to become proficient in these areas. Which
isn't synonymous with perfect.
Right, because in a lot of competency-based training, they use the term mastery. But as I was looking at that, and we're developing, for instance, the competency on growing in your character, which is one of the most important leadership competencies, is, will I ever achieve mastery in that? I'm not really sure. This side of heaven I will, but I can become proficient at it.
Right.
So that was kind of our rationale for that. And so that is the goal, is to help people develop. And by figuring out where they are and then helping them go through a training that will help them to grow.
The focus is helping you be a better servant within your community, within the church that God has called you to do. So that's really the focus of our MCNet, our Ministry Coaching Network. It's this global movement of like-minded leaders, and that have been involved in doing this very thing for many years now. And so, while we've all been developing and training for years through the network, this CLI, or actually called Coaching Through Intentional Relationships, is really a culmination of a lifetime for Doug and I, and actually for many of our team. And you can see on the screen various team members that we have in various parts of the world. And the program currently is involved in English, but also Russian and Spanish. And so you could see it in any of those languages, and all the material is in those languages. And so you could really use it to help your team really on the ground where you're at. So either way you want to use this, I think this is be a great material. We think this would be a great help for the body of Christ, for you individually, if you want to train your leaders, and to help you grow in your leadership capacity and help you grow others.
It's a guideline, and within that, you personalize it to some degree.
And so the whole program can be done just a la carte, auditing each individual competency, if you like. Or if you'd like to go to the MCNetCLI.org website, you could actually enroll either as a candidate, or you could enroll as a mentor in the program and be an associate coach with us in the MC Network and the MC Network. So hope you enjoy it. And what we're going to do if you want to continue on, we're going to go through each of the competencies, all 40 of them, and one by one, of course. And so if you'd like to click on any of those, or you'd like to hear me and Doug spout off our opinions on things, we're going to do that over the next little while. So I hope you'll join us, and looking forward to spending the next little time with you as we go through each competency.
To learn more about this MCNet Leadership Training Program and how you can implement it with your leaders, download the free orientation guide at MCNetCLI.org. In order to register in the program, go to MCNetCLI.org/contact, or to purchase and download the CLI materials, go to ICMCanada.org/MCNetCLI.